Well, hello, families. Daniel Magnuson here. I am going to do a little presentation here just about what I hope to do, a little bit about me, what I hope to do with distance learning. And the fifth grade team, we felt like creating this presentation would just kind of be an opportunity for if we're not able to connect with everybody, we can at least prepare a video that gives kind of an overview of our goals and objectives through distance learning this year. Just to begin, I just want to say I'm really enjoying working with your students, and they're great, and they ask great questions, and they're a lot of fun to work with, and just so bright and excited and enthusiastic, and we are definitely making the best of this format. I know it's not ideal, and just like the students, we hope to be back in the classroom as soon as possible. So let me just go through my slides. A little bit about me. This is my 24th year of teaching, starting my 21st year here in Minneapolis. My background is I went to the University of Minnesota Duluth. Um, I have my master's in special education and taught in special education for 17 years. Um, my wife is Heather, and I have a daughter, Maisie, who's in seventh grade this year. And we have a cockapoo, Shaggy, and a cat, Murray. We live in South Minneapolis. I'm into guitar and broomball and softball, tennis, camping, and fishing. Well, so that's a little bit about me. We have Abby Keelis is our student teacher this year, and she's been joining us in our Google Meets, and she'll be with us on and off all throughout the year. A little bit about my philosophy. I have a background in training in responsive classroom and developmental designs. It really is more of a social emotional learning program. The foundations in responsive classroom are really in child development theory. And the main teaching skills that we're working on with the students is CARES. So cooperation, assertiveness, responsibility, empathy, and self-control. Those really are the core behaviors that we're looking to foster. And then, as you can see on the left, through this distance learning model, we're trying to address as many of the components as we can. And you can see some of the ways that we implement those components on the right there. So what do we do each day? What's our routine look like? Let's go through that a little bit. So every day we start with homeroom, and that starts at 9:30. It goes from 9:30 to 10, so we have 30 minutes. We begin with the first component of responsive classroom, which is a morning meeting, and that's our homeroom time. So we usually have an opening slide for advisory, usually some sort of warm up where they can type their answer to a question into the chat. We go over our norms. Our norms are really like, what do we expect the students? What do we expect of the students when they log in for our sessions? So our homeroom structure, during that 30-minute time, we're planning a greeting, a sharing, an activity, and then news and announcements. So, here's an example of a greeting, a cheesy spin and point greeting. Then we move into our sharing. Here's just an example. We have so many different ways that we can incorporate sharing into our meetings, but this is just one example. Maybe we'll do like an idiom investigation. So beat a dead horse. So, what's an example of that? Where is the origin of that idiom? And then again, a sentence stem where maybe together as a group, we try to see if we can kind of create our own sentences together where we're using that idiom. And then some sort of fun activity. There's all kinds of activities that we do, but this is just one example. This is an activity where we might look at like optical illusions to talk about like how different people see different things in the images. Oh, and then we have our news and announcements. And then sometimes I try to give the students maybe like 5 minutes to get a drink of water, move around a little bit before starting our our ELA social studies. So then once homeroom is over, then we get into our block one. And then we have an agenda. And I think it's really important that the students see an agenda where they can see the big picture on like during this time together for a whole group, which is about 30 minutes, what do we hope to accomplish? And so we kind of run through that. And then this is more of like zooming in and really kind of looking at, okay, well, we're going to have our whole group time. And then the remainder of the block, we might be meeting in groups. You might have partner work. There could be some independent work that you'll be expected to do. So we just kind of talk about what is the plan for this day. And this will change from time to time. Sometimes instead of partner work, it will be small reading groups. Maybe it will be working in mixed groups, but we usually state here what the expectation is for groupings. If it's reading groups, then we break them up into 30-minute intervals, and then we tell the students, oh, you're going to be part of the first group from 10:30 to 10:55, or you're going to be in your reading group is meeting at this time or this time. So we make it really clear to the students when they need to join their group. So like this week, we've completely paired everybody up with new students for both of these groups. The reading groups will stay pretty static, and there will not be a lot of changes going forward with the reading groups. There might be based on the data, but these will pretty much stay the same. For homework, really for ELA and social studies, we've decided just to focus on book reports, and right now we're currently working on nonfiction. We've put a link to Tumble books in the web resources of Google Classroom, so the students can go to Tumble books, and then since we're doing nonfiction right now, there's a tab right at the top. They can click on it, and they'll have access to many different nonfiction texts that are in ebook format. Every day we do kind of let's review where we're at with assignments. And so we set, today is Tuesday, so I will review what was the assignment from yesterday and what's the assignment for today. So for example, today's assignment is going to concentrate on social studies. So we're going to do geographic terms. We're going to look at land and water and features. We're going to look at the features of types of bodies of water and various landforms, and what are the features of those terms. So I provided for today's lesson some examples of Cape, headwaters, mouth, Mississippi River, tributaries. Then usually after the presentation, I'll point out where the assignment would be for students to read that page, and then there's some sort of assignment that they would complete. So for today's assignment, we're asking the students to look at questions 1 through 13, and then they're provided with the map, and they need to read the question and then identify the physical feature on the map. Now, we have built into our program academic choice options. Some students will get through the activities quicker than others. So we are constantly reminding the students of where to go into Google Classroom to find their academic choices. We also have what we call choice menus. So there's a menu board, and the students can kind of pick which activities they would like to do for academic choice. And then at the end of our whole group time, then we just make sure to leave time at the end to answer any questions students have. And we usually have like 4 or 5 students that stay on and just need to have something clarified. But that's just another way that we can kind of respond to student needs at the end of the whole group. We have Lexia Core 5 as a supplemental reading program that we're doing, and we're asking students to do 20 to 30 minutes daily of Lexia Core 5. Students would log in. So there's a diagnostic test, and based on the diagnostic test, students are placed at a grade level, and then they move through a series of lessons from that grade level.
To warm up, choose an activity to begin.
So maybe they might decide to do fast find.
Choose the word that is a synonym for the word you see. See how many you can do before the time's up. Ready? Go.
You can make some mistakes here, and you can see what happens there. Anyways, um, just to kind of close that out there, that is an example of like the warm up for Lexia, and then there's an entire lesson that's that's built in there for them. And so this is what we call smart technology. And smart technology just means that while the students are working, the program is assessing, their the mistakes that they're making. There's something called like latency and response time. So like if they're presented with a prompt and they take a long time to respond, they have algorithms to to turn like how long it takes them to respond into like a fluency score. Uh, and then obviously it's looking for like accuracy as well. And the other cool thing, being that it's smart technology, is once it gets into a lesson, if the student is making a lot of errors, the program can adapt how it presents the information. It can move to more of a general overview into more explicit instruction, so it'll kind of break it down further. And if the students are still making mistakes, it will take it even further into like a direct instruction model where it's very, very much modified to really figure out where that error pattern is for the students, or what skill they're really struggling with, and presenting it in a highly, highly structured, methodical way until they start showing that they're improving, and then it will then move forward into the program. So when we say smart technology, that's really what we're talking about. Google Classroom. So typically on Fridays, we go through this series of slides to just kind of support the students. Like, yes, Google Classroom can be really overwhelming. We're generating assignments, we're sending these assignments out to you. Um, and there's just so much in there. But this is really what we're emphasizing, is telling the students to click view all. And if they do that, it will open to, um, it'll show their name, and it'll have their assignments, the due dates, and then like the status of where they're at. Have they turned it in? Has it been assigned, but it's just not due yet? But most importantly, do they have anything missing? So we've been reminding the students, if you see anything missing, that's where you really need to put your time and energy into making sure you get those assignments done. I just wanted to point out that uh, part of responsive classroom, one of those fundamental core beliefs, is really understanding child development theory. And so I put a link on my webpage to Yardsticks by Chip Wood. This is a resource often connected with responsive classroom, and it just looks at like it's just so important for me as a teacher, and I think this is important for parents to really understand what are the physical, social, emotional, language, cognitive needs and milestones for 10-year-olds and for 11-year-olds. And you can see here I've highlighted a couple of interesting tidbits here. 10-year-olds can be kind of quick to anger, but then also quick to forgive. They can be highly sensitive to and able to resolve questions of fairness. They enjoy being noticed and rewarded for their efforts. They're voracious readers. I'm just amazed at when we were in person, we could say, okay, it's time for independent reading, and students can pick a book and just sit there for a long time and just dive into a book without distraction. And very true for 10-year-olds. Um, because this is a grade where 10-year-olds are becoming 11-year-olds, there's some changes. So we see 11-year-olds start to get into that phase where they like to challenge the rules and argue a little bit more and start testing limits. They love the challenge of competition. Saving face starts to become more important. Um, Arguing and debating becomes a theme with 11-year-olds. So there's just this is on my page, and I strongly encourage parents to just kind of review this and just kind of reflect on their own child and if they're going through some of these developmental changes. In terms of literacy, Minneapolis has a balanced literacy framework. So during our block, we really want to try to hit on readers workshop, small group instruction, and writers workshop. The benchmark curriculum is really the core curriculum that we're using. And so this is really the big picture question that we're trying to answer through these units. And you can see that these are the titles of the various units that we're going to be looking at and these essential questions throughout the year. In social studies, we're really starting out with the geography of the Americas, and then we'll get into Native Americans and their land, why the Europeans left for the New World, routes of exploration, and so forth. I'll let you just kind of look this over, but this is kind of the direction we're headed. I think it's important for families to also understand that um, this is where we're at in fifth grade, but coming up next year in sixth grade, it's really focused on Minnesota history. And then in seventh grade, it's American history. And then eighth grade is more of a global view of social studies and looking at world studies. Just to kind of end here, I just wanted to share a few examples of student work samples from the previous year. Many of these projects are things that will be coming up through the year. So you already know about the Me poster. Right now, we're doing our personal letter writing, creating historical documents. We'll probably get into something related to dialogue between characters and how you show dialogue in text. There's the Mesoamerica trifold of brochures where we're learning about the Mayans, the Aztecs, and the Incas, and the students create. This is really something that would be a foldable, like a brochure, and this would be like page 1, and this is page 2. Usually following the winter break, I like to just do a little timeline activity just to get the students thinking about timelines and the components of a timeline. And it's kind of fun for them to reflect on their winter break and share those with each other. And then the magazine project, many of you know about that, typically starts around February and goes to the end of the year. And the main thing about this is understanding that there's a topic, a decade that they pick related to that topic, and then 3 articles. I say topic because it doesn't necessarily have to be like choose a historical like a person from history. As you can see in this next example, I had a student who said, I want to look at the history of the National Football League. So instead of focusing on just an athlete, he decided to focus on the NFL and how that came to be. So here you can see that we'll help the students create, we provide the students with a template. So it might be a Time, Life, Vogue, the New Yorker. Here it's Sports Illustrated. We show the students how to create and format a table of contents page for their magazine. The students love this. They love looking for advertisements that are from their decade. And then, we'll do quite a bit of work about how to write how to do the research and how to write an informative article. I hope that this was helpful for you to just kind of understand what's expected and what the students have to look forward to for this year. So thank you so much. Bye now.